and welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Matt.
I'm Winnie.
So, Winnie, guess what?
What?
I have a new pet.
A cat?
No.
Oh, sorry, a dog.
No, it's actually very cute, my pet.
Ooh, what is it?
It's a fish. It's a fighting fish. So it's very colorful. It has like a really cool fin on its head. And if you put a mirror in front of it, it tries to fight itself. So it puffs up and it looks very angry and ready to fight.
And this is a pet?
Yes.
This is gross. We need to change topic or something.
Flipper.
This is gross.
Okay, what do you mean gross?
Oh, sorry. This is...
Calling my pet gross?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Normally I will be very supportive of you, but when it comes to fish, this is something of a hard topic for me to talk about because I have an irrational fear of fish.
Okay.
Yeah, I get really creeped out by fish.
Okay, why is that?
I think it was from when I was younger and I also had a fish and then that fish died and now I've been traumatized and scarred.
Oh, no, well I hope that doesn't happen to my pet fish. And I'm sorry to hear that you feel that way about fish because today we're actually looking at an article called Thirsty Fish, Do They Drink?
Well, thankfully this topic actually kind of piques my interest. So
okay.
I'll charge on. I'll be strong.
Well, hope you can be strong for us as we get into this article when we come back after this.
Do fish need to drink water? A. Yes, all fish drink water. B. No, they get enough water without drinking. C. Some fish do need to drink water, but others don't. D. Only fish that live in lakes and rivers drink water. Everyone knows that drinking water keeps us humans alive. But what about fish? Do they drink the water they live in? To answer this question, we need to understand a process called osmosis. Osmosis is when water moves through a membrane, like skin, from areas with lower salt concentrations to those with higher salt concentrations. Freshwater fish live in lakes and rivers, and their bodies have a higher salt concentration than the water around them. Osmosis means that the river and lake water moves through the fish's skin into their bodies, where it is much saltier. This keeps freshwater fish constantly hydrated, so they do not have to drink.
Hello everyone, today we are looking at an article titled Thirsty Fish, Do They Drink? Interesting question. And yes, we have a question to start off our article. And the question is, do fish need to drink water?
Okay, so let's see. A, yes, all fish drink water. B, no, they get enough water without drinking. C, some fish do need to drink water, but others don't. Or D, only fish that live in lakes and rivers drink water. Okay, so if I wasn't so scared of fish and think that they were really creepy, this is actually a very interesting topic and one that I've never thought about because you would think it's very obvious, but actually now I'm not so sure what the answer is.
Right, because I would think there's always water like going through the fish because they have gills to breathe, so there's always water going through them.
And processing through them.
Is that the same as drinking? I don't think so.
Because I guess like we don't drink air and it just goes through us, right? So maybe it's the same with them?
Okay, so something different. So I guess we'll have to get into the article to find the answer to this question. Everyone knows that drinking water keeps us humans alive. But what about fish? Do they drink the water they live in? It's another interesting thing because you wouldn't want to drink the water in your bathtub.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. That's not some human tea, right? Okay, so continuing on. To answer this question, we need to understand a process called osmosis. Osmosis is when water moves through a membrane, sort of like skin, from areas with lower salt concentrations to those with higher salt concentrations.
Okay.
Okay, so what is a salt concentration?
Okay, so a concentration is the amount of one thing that's in another thing. So when we talk about salt concentration in water, we're talking about the amount of salt that is in the water. So if one thing has higher salt concentration, it has more salt mixed into the water. And lower salt concentration has less or could even have none.
Right, that's why like sometimes lake water isn't as salty as a beach.
Right, lake water usually is usually not salty, or certainly not as much as ocean water. So an example sentence for concentration, drinks that have a high concentration of sugar can be very bad for your health.
And that's why you usually, whenever I see you and you have a drink in your hand, it's usually 0 sugar.
I like to drink sugar-free.
Yeah, because you're a health nut.
Wow.
So continuing on, freshwater fish live in lakes and rivers, and their bodies have a higher salt concentration than the water around them.
Okay. Osmosis means that the river and lake water moves through the fish's skin into their bodies where it is much saltier.
This keeps freshwater fish constantly hydrated, so they do not have to drink. Okay, so hydrated, that's just another way of really saying making sure your body has enough water and moisture and making sure you're not dehydrated. So that means, you might pass out or faint because your body doesn't have enough water.
Right, so these, river fish are constantly hydrated means that they are, they're getting their 8 glasses of water per day.
Yeah, I think more than that.
More
probably.
than that if you're living in it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think that's quite answered our question yet. We at least now know that freshwater fish don't need to drink.
Yeah.
But we still don't know about those fish living in the oceans and the seas.
Right.
Or saltwater lakes.
Yeah, because there's more than one type of fish out there. Yeah.
So we're going to have to wait until after the break to find out the rest of the answer to this question.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。大部分的鱼在水中生活是用鳃来呼吸。那同学们有没有想过，鱼会口渴需要喝水吗？喝水让人类得以生存，那鱼呢？好，那我们先补充一下老师提到的这个 gill 这个字 ，G-I-L-L，gill 就是鳃，鱼等等水生动物它们的鳃。好，那我们在回答说鱼需不需要喝水这个问题之前，就要先了解渗透作用。Osmosis， 好，那么渗透呢？它是指说水经薄膜，像是皮肤，从盐浓度比较低的区域移动到浓度比较高的区域。那淡水鱼生活在湖泊和河流中，它们体内的盐浓度比周围的水高，于是呢，渗透作用会让河水和湖水通过鱼的皮肤进入到它们体内，让淡水鱼持续的保持水分，所以它们就不需要喝水咯。好，单字 concentration 在这边表示浓度，是个名词。Hydrate 这个动词它表示补充水分，我们文中是用过去分词 hydrated 来描述补充水分的。在前面如果加上 de 变成 dehydrated， 那就是形容脱水的。刚刚在讲到鱼的皮肤时 ，Winnie 老师有提到 bodily function， 用来表示身体功能，其中的 bodily B-O-D-I-L-Y 它是形容词，形容身体的。好，这边2个重点，我们进入文法时间。我们来看这个重点是 keep 受词加受词补语，可以表达使什么保持在什么样的状态。那么 keep 在这边就是使保持某状态的意思。受词补语我们可以用形容词、分词或是介系词片语。好，那么以分词当受词补语的时候，现在分词 VING 表示受词跟动词是主动关系，那么过去分词 PP 表示受词跟动词是被动关系。我们看2个例句。Doing crossword puzzles can help keep your mind sharp. 玩填字游戏可以帮助你让头脑保持灵光。那这时候补语是用形容词 sharp 来描述这个灵光的状态。 好，第二例句是 Please keep the back door locked at all times. 请让后门随时保持上锁。那么门是被锁上的，所以补语我们用过去分词 locked 来表达被动被锁上的状态。第二重点是 where 当关系副词的用法。Where 当关系副词相当于介系词加 which， 可以引导形容词子句来修饰或是补述说明，表示地方的先行词。那我们来看看两种用法。第一个用法是当先行词是不明确的地点时，我们就要限定它的范围，是用限定用法 ，where 前面不加逗号。举例来说 ，This is a place where you can feel a sense of belonging。这是一个让你能有归属感的地方。那先行词 a place 一个地方，这是不明确地点嘛？那后面就紧接着关系子句来限定它的范围咯。第二个用法是当先行词是特定或明确地点时，我们就不用限定范围啦，所以是非限定用法。这时候 where 前面要加逗号。例如 They have decided to move to Taipei, where their son lives. 他们决定搬到台北，他们的儿子住在那里。那么台北是明确地点，所以我们后面补充说明的部分用逗号隔开。这句话课文中。
In contrast, saltwater fish have less salt in their bodies than the seas and oceans they live in. Therefore, water flows out of their bodies rather than in. As a consequence, they have to drink water just like we do. But there's one small problem. Seawater is too salty. Because of this, saltwater fish have special cells that pump the extra salt out of their bodies. So, do fish drink? Well, saltwater fish love to sip, but freshwater fish prefer to skip.
Welcome back. So before the break, we have just learned that freshwater fish, so fish living in rivers or lakes, do in fact not drink water.
Right, so we have part of our question answered, but of course there's more than one type of fish. So let's try and figure out what else we can figure out. In contrast, saltwater fish have less salt in their bodies than the seas and oceans they live in.
Okay.
Okay.
So I wonder what that means for the osmosis there.
Right. So just now we said contrast, okay? It's a noun. And it means a difference between two or more things, okay? So for example, her brightly colored clothes stood in contrast with the gray city street, okay? So contrast meaning you can really see the difference. It's very obvious, the difference between two things.
Right. Okay. So I wonder how that affects their water drinking. Therefore, water flows out of their bodies rather than in. As a consequence, they have to drink water just like we do.
Aha, okay. So we are really similar to this fish.
Well, I think they're drinking salt water, though.
That is true. We probably wouldn't be able to live if we just drank salt water.
So anyway, a consequence. This is as a consequence they have to drink water. A consequence is a result of a particular situation. So, and it's usually either a bad or inconvenient result.
Right.
So in this case, maybe it's, it's less convenient to have to drink water. If you don't have to, it's not something I need to remember to do. So for example, poor grades are often a clear consequence of not working hard in class.
Right, so we can tell that's a very clear, direct impact of not doing something that, maybe you didn't want to do in the first place, but it might have been worse if you didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so continuing on, but there's one small problem. Seawater is too salty.
Okay.
Right, okay, so because of this, saltwater fish have special cells that pump the extra salt out of their bodies. So that's the difference.
So they are drinking salt water, but the salt's getting out of there. So it's like they have a
built-in filtering
filter, right? So you can just drink any kind of water.
That would be really great for the world if we had that.
That's true. Yeah, if we could drink seawater, it would be very helpful. Maybe we can get some of these fish cells in us.
Ooh.
You know.
Scientist math.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so do fish drink? Here's the answer to our question. Well, saltwater fish love to sip, but freshwater fish prefer to skip.
Nice.
So that's a nice little rhyme to remember which fish drink.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to remember that. Yeah. So to sip, okay, that means, it's a verb and it means to take a small mouthful of something, usually a beverage. So for example, Zoe only sipped her tea as it was still very hot. And I can relate to Zoe because I burn my mouth a lot. So I have to sip.
Okay.
Yeah, rather than gulp.
So, as we said, saltwater fish
They sip.
Freshwater fish skip. So if you skip something, it means that you don't do something that is usually done or expected that would be done.
Right.
For example, like drinking water. Most people do it. So if you skip it, you're not doing that. So if I, for example, skip lunch, I usually eat lunch, but today I'm not going to because I have to work so hard.
Okay, so you're skipping lunch.
Right.
Right, and not to be confused with another way of using the verb skip, which is, kind of like a middle between hopping and running. That type of skipping.
Yeah. So you can also skip with a skipping rope,
Yeah.
which is to jump over the rope.
So in this case, we're saying
to not do something. So an example sentence, I'm feeling pretty tired, so I will probably skip the party tonight. So now you know that the answer to our question is C. Some fish do need to drink water, but others don't.
I know I didn't say it before, but this was the answer that I was thinking, this is probably an answer, right?
You thought C was probably that you knew that?
I didn't know it, but if I had to guess, I would have guessed C.
Oh,
Not to say because, I have all the facts now, but...
Okay, well, let's see. Well, what do you think then, Winnie? Which animals do you think can last a long time without drinking water?
Well, off the top of my head, if we're going to think about animals in their environment, you would think about environments that don't have a lot of water. So I would think the desert. Okay, so I would kind of think maybe camels. So camels, they could probably go a long time without drinking water because there isn't a lot of water. So they probably evolved and adapted into creatures that don't need water.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
Well, when I was a kid, I had a pet gerbil. And I know that gerbils come from the desert. They live in the desert. Oh. And my gerbil would always have its droppings or its poop would always be very hard. They're like little rocks.
So very dehydrated.
That's right. So because the gerbil has taken all of the liquid, all of the water out of it and kept it in its body so that it doesn't need to drink so often, so it can live in places like the desert.
Right, so it's a survival thing that they have built into them that, they already absorb all the water they can get.
So we've learned some interesting things about fish and whether they drink water or not, and I'm going to share this information with all of my friends, and I hope you will too, and we'll see you next time.
See ya!
淡水鱼因为渗透作用，这个河水、湖水通过皮肤进入体内，让它们保持水分，所以不用喝水。那相较之下，咸水鱼体内的盐分比它们生活的海洋少，因此呢，水会流出体外，那它们就必须喝水啦。不过因为海水太咸了，所以这个咸水鱼有特殊的细胞，可以把多余的盐排出体外。老师们就开玩笑说，咸水鱼体内有内建的过滤器。老师说的 built in， 在 built 跟 in 之间加连字号，可以当形容词形容内建的。那么 filter filter 表示滤网或者是过滤器。再看到单字 contrast， 它表示差异、对照或是对比。我们可以用片语 in contrast 来表达相比之下或者是相反地。再看到 consequence 这个名词是指后果、结果或是影响。那么 sip 当动词，它是指小口的喝、啜饮的意思。Winnie 老师这时候还有提到 gulp Gulp 则是指大口的喝下去，大口饮下，也可以指狼吞虎咽的吃。老师还有提到 beverage beverage 就是指饮料。再看到下一个单字 skip 是动词，在这里表示跳过、略过，或是可以表达不做某事的意思。好，那么老师们最后聊到比较少喝水的动物时 ，Matt 老师提到他曾经养过一种宠物叫做 gerbil gerbil 就是沙鼠的意思。好，那么以上的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Do fish need to drink water? A. Yes, all fish drink water. B. No, they get enough water without drinking. C. Some fish do need to drink water, but others don't. D. Only fish that live in lakes and rivers drink water. Everyone knows that drinking water keeps us humans alive. But what about fish? Do they drink the water they live in? To answer this question, we need to understand a process called osmosis. Osmosis is when water moves through a membrane, like skin, from areas with lower salt concentrations to those with higher salt concentrations. Freshwater fish live in lakes and rivers, and their bodies have a higher salt concentration than the water around them. Osmosis means that the river and lake water moves through the fish's skin into their bodies, where it is much saltier. This keeps freshwater fish constantly hydrated, so they do not have to drink. In contrast, saltwater fish have less salt in their bodies than the seas and oceans they live in. Therefore, water flows out of their bodies rather than in. As a consequence, they have to drink water just like we do. But there's one small problem. Seawater is too salty. Because of this, saltwater fish have special cells that pump the extra salt out of their bodies. So, do fish drink? Well, saltwater fish love to sip, but freshwater fish prefer to skip.
Hey Shane, are you ready for the performance at the year-end party next week?
You know, I've been practicing, but I'm still a little nervous. How about you?
Well, I'm off to a flying start. I've been rehearsing my dancing part all week. It's going really well.
A flying start? So you're gonna start the show off by flying or something? That's incredible!
Oh. Today, we're going to talk about the phrase flying start.
Okay, so what does it mean to get off to a flying start?
Flying start means to begin a race, contest, or any undertaking with a speedy or advantageous beginning.
Okay, can you give us an example?
Sure. Our team got off to a flying start, scoring 3 goals in the first 10 minutes.
So it's kind of like hitting the ground running.
Yes, they have a similar meaning, but hit the ground running usually means to start a job or project quickly and energetically without needing to spend time learning about it.
Okay, I see. So if I want to get off to a flying start on my project, I need to start working on it right away and put in a lot of effort.
Exactly, now you got it.
Thank you, Karen. Well, that's all for today.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.